I'd offer you something to drink, but that would indicate I want you to stay.
I know you don't want me to stay.
And yet,
here I am.
We're still trying to shake off the shock from Lioness Season 2's finale. As we catch our breath, we can't help but wonder how the show itself will handle things if Paramount Plus gives it the green light for a third season. What began as a look into the lives of women in the CIA, juggling intense missions and tough moral choices, has turned into a wild ride involving everything from child trafficking to cartel operations, and even a possible global showdown with China over Taiwan. Sheridan's writing has been moving so fast this season that we're almost out of breath trying to keep up. That said, we're not confirming or denying anything about a potential Season 3 just yet. Here's what we know so far. Before we dive into what could happen in Season 3, let's take a moment to reflect on how Season 2 ended, which, honestly, might leave you needing to scream a little bit after a political debate over Thanksgiving dinner. Lioness is all about high stakes, and when characters aren't yelling at each other, they're gearing up for intense action, like running drills to heavy metal music. This season's plot was like a messy plate of mashed potatoes and gravy. It kicked off with the kidnapping of a congresswoman at the U.S.-Mexico border and quickly escalated into a conflict about China's plan to invade Taiwan. Joe's team is thrown into chaos, especially after adding a new member, Silo. Nothing seems to go as planned. The Lioness crew returns to Basra, Iraq after Episode 7, where they need to secretly intercept enemy intel near the border. Meanwhile, Caitlin is now in charge of the drug cartel known as Lost Tigers, and things get even more complicated with Joe's niece, Josefina, being a U.S. soldier. The power shift is in their favor, but it's up to her father, Pablo, to get involved. Season 2's final episode starts with Joe and her crew facing off at the Iraq-Iran border. After almost dying in a previous episode, Joe's back in action, but she's physically spent. Despite being told to stay back, she insists on carrying a gun and diving headfirst into the mission. As Joe and the team make their way through enemy lines, the intensity just keeps building. Caitlin and Brian work on gaining Pablo's trust, but it takes some convincing, offering him security in the U.S. Meanwhile, there's a serious nuclear threat developing as China's scientists are activated and things are looking grim. When the mission intensifies with aerial assaults and a major crash, everyone's pushed to their limits, and not all of the team makes it out unscathed. The action keeps coming, and in the end, it's the president's backup that saves the day, though the team is left battered and bruised. Joe returns home in an emotional state, but she finds reconciliation waiting for her, leaving us on a hopeful note. The season ends with some serious questions about what's next. How will they recover, and what challenges lie ahead in the potential Season 3? Well, it looks like the wait for Season 3 just got a little more exciting, thanks to Zoe Saldaña's pitch for a Lioness prequel. In an interview with Deadline, while chatting about her other upcoming projects, including the next Avatar sequel, Zoe shared her thoughts on what a prequel could look like. She's all for diving into the backstory of her character Joe, and how she first crossed paths with Nicole Kidman's character, Caitlin. Zoe even compared it to 1923 for Yellowstone, suggesting a parallel storyline that could run alongside everything else. She'd love to explore how Caitlin recruited Joe, especially after that intense scene with Michael Kelly's character Byron telling Joe she couldn't be replaced in the field. It left Zoe wondering, how did Caitlin find Joe and pull her into the mission? A prequel exploring that would be so intriguing. As for Season 3, while it hasn't been officially confirmed, Zoe's comments about being open to 3 seasons have fans hopeful. With Taylor Sheridan behind the show and its strong performance on Paramount Plus, it feels like a safe bet that Season 3 will come through. And if that does happen, a prequel could add another layer to the Lioness universe, giving us more of that dynamic between Joe and Caitlin. Imagine a storyline centered around Caitlin recruiting a younger Joe, and the inevitable disillusionment that follows. Plus, there's the fun of figuring out who could play younger versions of Joe and Caitlin. It could be its own thing, with the chance for Saldaña and Kidman to return as executive producers or even pop in for a guest role. Sounds like a great way to build on the show's rich story. As Lioness fans eagerly await news on the series' renewal for Season 3, Zoe Saldaña has confirmed she's already signed on for more. Despite the show still waiting for an official green light, the multi-billion-dollar movie star who plays the Trouble Joe revealed in a recent interview that her contract guarantees at least 3 seasons. "I signed up for 3 seasons at least," Saldaña shared, fueling speculation that the show will be renewed soon. Of course, it's possible that this could simply be a formality, but it's certainly a good sign for fans. In the same interview, Saldaña reflected on her time working on Lioness, noting the unique opportunity to collaborate with Taylor Sheridan, the writer and creator of the series. She praised his ability to craft stories with strong themes and a distinct cadence, mentioning how Sheridan's approach has made his presence a powerful asset for Paramount+. While we're still waiting on official confirmation, it's clear that the show has a strong following, and the cast, led by Saldaña, will likely return for Season 3. As for who else we can expect in the upcoming season, while the cast may shift a bit, Saldaña's Joe, Nicole Kidman's CIA boss Caitlin, and Morgan Freeman's Secretary of State Edwin Mullins are all expected to return. The relationship between Joe and Caitlin, along with the tension between Joe and her CIA superiors, played by Michael Kelly, will likely continue to play a central role. Dave Annable is also likely to return as Joe's husband, Neil. Beyond that, the show is sure to introduce new operatives and see some characters change or be replaced, especially after the events of Season 2. If Season 2 continues to perform as strongly as the first, there's little doubt that Season 3 will soon be announced, potentially with a more streamlined production to keep the momentum going. Fingers crossed for good news in the near future. Furthermore, it makes sense that Lioness Season 3 would continue to explore real-life conflicts, especially considering how much the show draws from actual events and intelligence operations. Taylor Sheridan has a knack for weaving real-world issues into his storytelling, as we've seen in other projects like Yellowstone and 1883, where history plays a big role. Since Lioness is rooted in the world of covert operations, espionage, and military strategy, the plot's gritty realism makes it feel grounded in actual events, and the characters, while fictional, are shaped by the kinds of complex, morally ambiguous roles often found in real-life intelligence agencies. Given that Season 2 already delved into such complex dynamics, it wouldn't be surprising if Season 3 continues this pattern, perhaps with even more direct references to modern geopolitical conflicts, espionage tactics, and the real-world consequences of covert missions. This focus not only adds tension and drama, but also gives the series a sense of authenticity that keeps viewers hooked. With the established premise, we could see Joe and her team involved in new operations that echo real-world issues, and maybe even witness the continuation of characters' personal stories and struggles. Whether it's dealing with the moral consequences of their actions or navigating the complexities of their relationships with one another. It's also exciting to think about how the series might introduce new operatives or expand on existing ones, especially as real-world intelligence agencies are constantly evolving. Season 3 could bring more depth to the operational side of things, while still staying true to the gritty, grounded feel that's become a hallmark of Sheridan's storytelling. Wouldn't you agree? And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Your suggestions for future videos are always welcome in the comments below.